I became very arrogant. I became a very arrogant business person. Because thinking that I already have a 5-year head start. They copied the master, so they copied everything that we do, but at a lower price. Apple to Apple, people always choose the lower price. We train 1,000 entrepreneurs every single month. We still can't reach 1 million.
You did the total opposite.
Money will automatically come and you'll be rich is bullshit. And if I'm not doing something at a particular time, means I'm wasting it. Or, my dad says in his rage, just give the boy away.
In this episode, we have my good friend and also my Blue Grove mentor and coach, Ray Chou, with us. So Ray Chou is a serial entrepreneur. He has exited one of his businesses and he is also a part-time musician in a boy band. So we're going to talk more about that. This podcast is about not just the money-making side of business, but also the spirituality when it comes to the spirit of business. So thank you for being here, Ray.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for inviting. I don't know whether my band would like it that you call them a boy band.
So we're gonna talk more about that. Okay. So let's just dive right in. Okay. Ray, one of the things that I would say is your biggest achievement is you managed to sell one of your business to Microsoft.
No,
or
it was to
exited.
Cellcom.
Cellcom.
So we sold to Cellcom, and then they merged. So
And
became,
okay. So tell me a bit about that whole business, like your journey from going from London and then all the way to coming back to Malaysia, starting that business and selling that. Let's just get right to it.
so when I came back from London, it was a discovery process, right? So it wasn't directly into that business. But I'll fast forward that part first into the business. So I think it was 2003 that we started the business. And it was kind of that era where, IT was booming,
Yeah.
.com era.
Everybody wants the IT, then they all make
Correct.
money. Yeah.
Right? Y2K just finished, right? So we went into a business initially was to do Microsoft-based training.
So
Right,
that
so-
business was to help businesses to use Microsoft software, that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
All the Microsoft Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and so on, right? And then I became something called a trainer broker. So I got so many different friends that was training Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and all that. And we got together and I offered those people to training centers, right? The IT training centers. That business didn't work, right? Because then the IT training centers wanted to save a little bit of money and they would go direct to the trainers. And I realized a very fundamental fact of business is that I didn't add value. I didn't add value to the trainers, right? I was just basically a broker. So then that business shifted to basically doing the consulting work itself. So we started doing consulting work, we started to implement projects, and then we took on a particular technology from Microsoft called systems management. And it was basically tools to manage data centers. And from there, things started to fly. Right? Things started to fly. There was a very major dip, and we can talk about that later. But then probably 15 years later, I think me and my partner decided that we can't do this anymore, right? We felt that I personally felt that I lost passion for the business, and while I wanted to hang on, I felt that I was the bottleneck, right? And I realized that, okay, we've got to do something about it, and we decided we're going to sell the company. And we gave ourselves 5 years. So we did everything that we can. We had to tidy up the books, right? Most of us as business owners, we kind of...
You mix personal and business, finance.
So we got to stop buying handbags for the wives, claim it in the company account. We got to tidy up the books, and then just prepare for the sale. Right, so that was a journey by itself, and then in 2021 we got at the end of 2020 we got an offer from a couple of different public listed companies, and one of them was Cellcom, and then we strike the deal in 2021.
So coming back to this, let's just talk a bit about the whole pairing to sell a business. I think a lot of our viewers or listeners are like, when they're business owners, and then they go like, I want to sell my business. And I noticed something very smart that you did. So 15 years of doing the business, let's talk a bit about what made you want to sell, even though you lost passion. Because a lot of business owners like, hey, I already lost passion, but make money ma. So I make money, so I keep doing the thing again and again and again. Let's talk a bit about that. Like, what was a pivotal point? Because I think like passion, it's not like a moment I lost my passion. It's like a gradual fire that just diminishes. So can you tell us like what was that moment you go like, okay, let's sell?
Sure. I love it, David, that you, in your podcast, you talk a lot about the spiritual side of things, right? So, um, I think a couple of years before that, right, I learned this whole concept called Ikigai, right? And we all know Ikigai is really about the four quadrants: what you love, what you're good at, what
What
the
the
world
world
needs, right, and what you can make money from. And I realized that, if I put my business in this whole Ikigai mold, I only probably met one of it, because what I was good at, I wasn't good at anymore, personally, right? So I had a team where, the team was doing well and so on, but I found it very difficult to keep up with the whole technology world. What the world needs, yes, probably yes, but we were at a juncture where, we went through 3 years of the cloud business coming, right? We used to sell servers. We used to implement servers. When cloud came, our business was disrupted.
And then you had to change the whole thing.
We pivoted, but we didn't pivot fast enough, right? So what we were offering wasn't what the world needs. We pivot again. We created a development team and we started to build AI software for the medical and the agriculture industry. That went well, but that period of building that took a lot of energy, right? And so I continue to ask myself, right? Is this going to continue to be my ikigai? Is this going to be something that I will continue to love to do? And slowly, the answer kept on saying no, right? Is there something else? Is there something else?
Well, would you say it's because you don't like the business? Because like every business, you need to change. Like there's always disruption.
Yeah.
Is it the constant disruption of the technology, or is it the constant need to reinvent yourself that kind of stop you? Because like some people, like certain industries, there's always going to be disruption. But for you, is it because like even right now you're doing consulting, there's a disruption like AI technology, ChatGPT. We don't know whether ChatGPT is going to replace coaches in the future. There's also that disruption. So, but then I don't see you burn out here or lose your passion in what you're currently doing now. So would you say that's an industry burnout that stopped you, or it was the constant need to keep reinventing that stopped?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's great that you pointed it out. I think one was maybe industry burnt out, because I was never trained as a tech guy,
Okay, so you didn't have that background.
right? So my background was music.
Yes.
So I went from music to looking at the world and saying that music is not going to make me money. Music is not going to make me even survive. So I went into tech because that was what the industry needed. Right? So I made a decision based on what was needed in the world, not based on what I wanted to do. And yes, it took me great times. It took me through great times. But I think I realized that, from an industry perspective, I just could not keep up. Right? I couldn't. There were so many younger, more hungry, more driven people that was into tech. Why am I not burning out? Probably this time, because I think I found something that perhaps through the different businesses that I've created or founded, this becomes something that I can continuously doing, and I feel that, I don't know, call it ADHD or whatever, right? But I feel that I'm always seeking to do something new, and this is a way that I can always consistently do something new, but in a way not doing it myself.
Okay, great. So
Right?
it's like
Doing
J.
it through
J.
others.
Abraham always had a principle why he wanted to do consulting is he could try different businesses without but jumping into businesses. So
Yeah.
that's why you're doing what you're doing.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And going back to your question about disruption, I think this is a business where you can continue doing until you're pretty old, and the more white hair you have, I think the more credibility we have,
Which is the coaching bit, consulting.
Yeah, the coaching and consulting bit. Yeah.
So let's jump back a bit to when you talk about gearing for the sell. I think that was very strategic of you. Most people, they go, okay, I want to sell my business, or they wait until somebody is sick in the business, somebody is health problems, and then they just sell it as it is. When you made that decision, okay, we're gonna sell it, walk us through the steps. What made you realize you needed a few years to clean up? What do you do to prepare the business for sale? Because most people don't know how to sell a business. Most people, I would say, you and me, we're one of few people who were able to exit a business. Most people start a lot of business. It's either they close it down, right? But they never ever manage to sold it. So can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. So I think when we decided to sell in 2018, we we asked for some help, right? So we asked for some help. I asked some friends who have sold their businesses, and then we realized a couple of things. I think number one is this: a lot of people don't get the sale just because they want to sell, right? It's not as easy as saying that, okay, I want to sell my company. Somebody is definitely going to buy it, right? I think the positioning of it, and you talk a lot about positioning, David, right? And the positioning of the company itself as to who would potentially buy it. So we needed to figure out our type of company, who would be the right buyer. Just like, we always try to figure out who would be the right customer. A buyer is a customer as well, right? So we looked at it, and then we looked at the industry, and then we saw that many of our type of companies were being bought by telcos globally, right? I have a friend in Holland who his company, I got to know him through the industry and through the years. He got bought by a telco. I got a friend in Australia, same thing. So we looked at the telco industry in Malaysia, right? And telco industry regionally as well, because we were in several different places.
So you were smart. You benchmarked globally, regionally, and then you saw the pattern.
Correct, right? So we thought, okay, I think this is the route to go, right? Look at a telco. So then, just like any business, understanding what your customer needs. So we looked at it and says, why would a telco want to buy a company like us? Then we saw that the industry benchmarking, because most telcos are all public listed companies, so you could see the trends of their business, and revenues were declining for telcos. Because last time we used to pay like 10 cents per SMS, 30 cents per MMS. So there's always this way to make money, right? But now it's what? One flat fee and you get everything, right? So I think telcos had to pivot themselves, right? Or had to adapt. So they wanted to adapt to telco technology. So we started positioning. So I think the first thing I would say is you have to know who you want to sell to, or at least have an idea. So you can research and get to know how do you position yourself to that company. The second, we needed to look at it from a financial standpoint. Because looking at it from how people buy companies is always about profit multipliers. So depending on how much profit you have, I'll pay you a certain multiplier based on your profit. So if we operated as a traditional company, wanted to reduce our profits just to not pay so much tax, right?
And this is a big thing I realize. Like a lot of people, the pursuit of saving tax, they lower their profit. But then when they do that, they lose out on the bigger thing, which is your valuation or the exit.
Absolutely, right? And valuation is not just, people don't come in and look at just 1 year of your valuation, right? They look at history, right? If you have not been making a lot of profit through the years, suddenly you have 1 year which you make a bit of profit, and then you want to sell a company, it's kind of a red flag. So we said to ourselves, okay, we need that 5 years, right? We need that 5 years, clean up, declare more profits, pay more taxes. Painful, but I think it's necessary for the end goal. Yeah. And then the last part was to prepare our people, right? I realized at that point of time was this, right? We always tell our teams, come, stick with me. You got to be loyal, come, stick with me through this journey, right? We'll get somewhere, And I realized at that point that we ask our teams to be loyal, but the minute we want to exit, we will exit and we will go out the door straight away, right? So then I realized that, oh my God, right? This thing where it's not equal, it's not fair. So we had to prepare our teams also, and we had to let them know that, okay, this is the journey. We're going to be exiting the company, and we had to prepare them such that, okay, what is their benefit of the sale in that sense, right? Why would we want them to stick to this sale? Because we realize that many companies also buy, not only buying for the company, but buying for the people, right? Especially us that has technical skill sets. They want to know that the people will still be there when they buy it, right? So the third part is just preparing
How
the
do
people.
you had that conversation to get them to stay? Because you are a very charismatic entrepreneur, so most likely they came for you. And then when you say, "Hey, we're gonna sell the company," like, what was their response? Were they like, "Okay, I'll sell," lah? Or were they like betrayed? So
I think out of all, to be honest, one or two felt a little bit betrayed, right? One or two felt that, I've been with you for 10 years, right? And you said they will take us through, that now you're going to leave and exit. And I honestly told them that, I really don't know what is going to be after the sale, right? I may still stay back if the buyers want me to stay. I may exit, but I told them honestly, my goal is to exit completely. And I guess what helped was my brutal honesty, lah. And this is something that I learned very, very. It's a very tough lesson from something I made as a mistake in the past. And I told them that, look, I feel that I'm the bottleneck. I feel that if I continue doing this, I may not be able to grow the company, and I may not be able to deliver on the promises that I gave you guys, right? So, but I also convinced them that, look, isn't this what we wanted at the start? We wanted to get to a place where we could all grow exponentially, and perhaps this sale will help you guys do that, right? Funding from a bigger company, backing and support from a bigger company, more projects that we can participate in because now the capex is higher, right? So I think after a couple of sessions, they kind of got it, lah, right? And so and I told them that, look, at the end of the day also, when a sale happens, you will get a reward from it. So it's not just me taking everything and just fucking off, right? There will be certain things that we will put in place along the way.
you made sure they get employee shares, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we make sure that they got some part of the sale, lah.
And so tell us in the end, so probably you had a bunch of offers. Can you let us know how much was the sale, if it's okay? And then how do you choose the offer? Like, so now this is like, okay, we spent 5 years, we've gone through we've gone through the finances, we've gone through the people, everybody's on board. Okay, selling time. How do you make that decision? When do you know it was the right offer? Because I'm sure, like, as you're preparing, there are people who are like, oh, I'll buy you for 2 million. Or I'll buy you for 1 million. So, like, how do you know, like, okay, this is the right price, this is the right thing, this is the right people? So, as a business owner, how do you choose?
Okay, interesting. So I remember we had a total of 9 offers. And I didn't know how that came about.
Let's talk a bit about 9 offers. So like, like when we do business, like, to the people who never sell a business, like 9 offers. So where are the 9 offers gonna come from? Like, do they drop from the magical universe, or like, do you need to go to a place to say, hey, I want to sell? Like, where did the 9 offers come from?
So, telco industry, we were quite intentional, right? We kind of just seeded the conversations.
Oh, so you went to networking events in telco industry.
We went to networking
and they say,
events.
hey, we're looking to start a company.
Correct.
Okay.
Right? And most of the telcos were our clients anyway. So we kind of just, seeded the conversations and all that, right? And then we also spoke to a person that was recommended by a friend. He was a broker, an M&A broker. So we got to know that there are people out there which basically are looking out for deals for a certain commission. So we just told the guy, says, okay, we're looking to sell and all that. And then suddenly the offers started coming in.
And what was the process like? What did they say? Hey, we want to come in to see the company, want to see all the accounts, or was it just send us the black and white and then they'll figure it out?
So we got emails, I got text messages, I got calls. Says, hey, I'm from here, I'm from this company, I'm from that company. It says, are you looking to exit or are you looking to sell? We are looking to buy, things like that. Um, and and funnily enough, right? We got into Zoom calls, and this was during the pandemic, right? So you can't meet. So we got into Zoom calls, and then we got into conversations about, okay, what does your company do? Why would they want to buy us? They explained, right? Why would they want to buy and sell? And it was not going straight into due diligence. It was not going to anything. Most of them had just the one main question, which is, so what's the figure you have in mind? Right? So I learned one very important fact about selling businesses then. It's that you have to have a number in mind. It's just like the test water, you want something, you go and test, would this person, would I want to buy it, right? So we needed to have that figure in mind. So the first one or two, we didn't have the figure in mind. We thought the process was that, okay, you would do your
the valuation
due
and they'll tell you
diligence,
the figure.
the valuation, then they'll tell us the amount, right? But then we learned that, okay, the next couple, we have to have a figure in mind.
So what's the figure you had?
So the figure that we had, because we had at that point of time 6 countries, right? So totaling up the 6 countries, we thought, okay, we would ask for a valuation about 100 plus mil, right? For all countries, right? Because we had Singapore, we had a good currency valuation, we had a couple of different countries. So we set an amount, right? Which is about 120, right? Then some said, okay, yeah, thank you very much. And then they never call us back. All right? And then some say, okay, got it, right? Then we will get back to you, and then we'll see whether the process, we'll inform you of the process and so on. Right? So this was basically for them is window shopping time, right? Does that valuation or that amount that I have to invest matches what they are looking at from a money investment perspective, right? So that list of 9 got cut down. And also the second decision was really about what that forward, what would you call it? What was that forward vision looking like? Many of those offers came that they were public listed companies. And we realized that the pandemic, technology was a hot property. US stocks was all rising because of tech. So I think many public listed companies, we had offers from logistics companies, right? Shipping companies.
They just needed to buy a tech.
They wanted to buy a tech to basically raise their portfolio, right? They raised their stock prices. And that wasn't what I was looking for. I had made a promise to my team that this sale would be something that would take them further, right, than what they would in the past. And knew that if I accepted those offers, which I can honestly tell you, some of those offers were even better, right?
Give us a benchmark. Like, you were asking for 100 million. How much was the highest offer?
It was basically no negotiation. It was basically, okay, we'll accept it.
Or just at whatever it is, whatever your term.
Yeah. In my head, I say, shit, man, I should ask for more. Right? But it was just that.
But you had accountability and responsibility to it.
I felt that I needed to do something for the team. I felt that I was accountable for
I think
to
this
make sure
this
that
part
it
a
was
lot of people don't realize. They always think it's just about money. Well, then when selling the business, right, like exiting a business, sometimes you also need to think about who's going to continue the legacy, will benefit them or not.
Yeah.
Which then leads us to, so how do you choose the Celcom DG back then?
So I chose Celcom because I met with the CEO. I met with the CEO of Axiata, right? Because Celcom was under a subsidiary of Axiata Berhad. And they painted me this vision of, okay, we wanted to bring a technology company and a few other technology companies to complement the whole world of telco tech, right? So they had a vision of where our company fit into the longer term vision, right? How they would drive that and so on. So I chose that based on that fact that, okay, these guys had a vision of how we fit rather than just going.
It's very interesting because it sounds like instead of you pitching them, they're pitching you.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was nice. That was fun, right? And then the whole process of the sale was actually quite fast.
How long did it take?
It took about 7 months
7 months.
from conversation to signing the papers.
And then what was the final offer? Is it okay to share?
I can't really reveal the final offer, but you can kind of do your maths of what we offered. They bought 60% of the company, right? We negotiated. They negotiated a little bit, right? About 10 plus percent. And then I wanted cash upfront. So naturally, in every sale, there will always be this thing where the offer would be, okay, I'll give you what you want,
It's in
but you have to
shares.
reach a certain target in 3 years or 5
Yeah, or
years.
they give you shares. that kind
Correct,
of
or they
thing.
give you a share exchange, right? And things like that. I wanted just cash up front, all right? I didn't want to go into this mode for the next few years where I would be dreading the journey. And this was some sharing advice from some of my friends who was on a performance-based exit, and they didn't enjoy it. It was very, very stressful. So I took another cut, right? Another about a 20% cut, right? To get a lower valuation, just to get the 60% cash up front. Yeah.
Tell me your psychology. Why did you want it cash upfront for a lower valuation? You see, a lot of people don't understand this. Like a lot of people like to focus on, okay, I just want the valuation high so I can like get short. Because it for them it's money, right? But then for some of us, we need to take 20, 30, 40% less valuation, but for lesser cash, right? 10 million in 3 years in stocks exit versus 1 million cash now. Like what made you make that sacrifice?
So I guess, going back to the spiritual side of things, looking at where I was at my phase of life, right? Was I comfortable with slogging out in a environment which I probably would be stressful at, would probably suffer, and probably there's a lot of unknowns, right? Now I got to report to others. I didn't know whether I could. Now I needed to basically drive the business even further, right? Could I drive the business without having passion for the business? Yes, maybe I could dig somewhere deeper and just pull energy out and do it.
It
But
drew.
yeah, I grit it through, right? But then I go back to that concept of my own personal energy, right? Where is my personal energy coming from? At one point, I'm exiting the business because this is draining my energy. How do I then reverse that to drive the business even further? So I realized that I can't. And many people or friends who have exited the business have all told me the next 3 to 5 years, if you're contracted for the 3 to 5 years to drive the company, it is not going to be, all rainbows and clouds, right? It's going to be a lot of pressure, and they got that pressure. So I guess it's a decision whether or not you want that kind of life, right? And I know of many friends who says yes, I'm all up for it, right? And they thrive and they get it done. My answer to myself was no. I wasn't wanting to. And at that point of time, also, I was in that transition phase where this whole world of teaching and training. I wasn't a trainer before. I would actually, to be honest, I would never do this. I would never consult. I would never do training because I felt that it was a business that cannot scale, right? But then this whole understanding of, wow, this is great, right? And at that also point, our fellow good friend Jonathan, right, and he was on your podcast also before. He convinced me that hey, this may be something that you may love to do. So there's that pivotal,
Moment
yeah,
where everything just fell in place and then you just
yeah, and that crossroad, right, to decide, okay, what is it that I want to do, right? Do I want to slog and get more money, or do I want to just do something that I love to do and just take less money?
nice. And then just curious, what do you do with the money? Like most people are like, okay, shopping time, like splurge. What do you do with the money?
Wow.
Like,
I
do you remember like the moment the cash came in? Like, what was the feeling like? It's like finally, or it's like, oh my god, okay, next, or was it like, okay, let's reward myself?
Uh, I did. I don't know whether I regret this decision. I didn't really reward myself. I didn't buy Ferraris. I didn't buy any big houses or anything. Um, I reinvested a lot of it, right? I reinvested into properties. I reinvested into other businesses. So I started investing in other businesses. And, you know, for good or bad, when people know you've exited, suddenly you get phone calls. Suddenly you
Just
get
curious,
phone
like,
calls.
would you say your exit is around 7, 8 figures, personally?
Yeah, yeah.
7 or 8?
Eight,
8.
eight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened? All these phone calls came in, and then
You know, suddenly a lot of people become your good friends and says, "Hey, I have this business. You know, would you like to invest in my business?" Things like that. Oh man. So I did invest in a couple of the businesses. Not all, you know, after now what 4 years, not all were successful. I think some was basically just doing charity. Um, but no, I didn't splurge. I didn't. I invested more in the stock market. I invested more in crypto, right? So just going back into the mode of
would you
investment.
say wealth is created through business?
Interesting. I feel that wealth. One of the ways to create wealth is business equity, right? But I feel that there are other ways, right? So from the investment of other things, also like property and all that, but also in investing in crypto, right? It's not really business equity. It's a game where you play, where you look at trends and all that. So not only business equity,
Or one of them?
yeah. I think I'm comfortable with business equity, right? Because we've been entrepreneurs, we know the business, we know how to study financials, we know whether or not a business may work or not, although it's not guaranteed. But I guess that comfort level, I would lean more towards the business equity. Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about your big mistake. You said throughout this journey there was a big mistake that happened. So let's talk a bit about that. What was that mistake?
Wow. Okay. So I think it was back in 2010.
So it was were you inside the business before you started off, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was way back, right? So 2010. I think from when we started that business, 2003 to 2010, there was the first 1 or 2 years which we were doing training and training brokerage and all that. It wasn't doing well. We started to consult doing that product. Suddenly our growth was crazy. We were growing at 30 to 50% growth year on year. We grew from $1 million company to a $10 million company in a span of 3 years, right? Because we were kind of monopolizing the market. We was only still in Malaysia here. I became very arrogant. I became a very arrogant business person, right? And I'll be the first to admit that. I felt that nothing can touch me, right? And we says, we just continue doing what we're doing. We were selling a particular product for Microsoft, and Microsoft, being the principal of the business, kept on coming to us and says, hey, can I use you to teach other people how to do this product? And being the arrogant person that I was, says, yeah, sure, I'll teach everybody, right? Because thinking that I already have a 5-year head start, right? So whoever I teach is not gonna be able to compete with me anyway. So I taught other partners, which eventually became our competitors, but they were all friends anyway, right? They were all friends anyway. But then, I remember that one pivotal moment where there was a particular client that we had, and we've been having this client for 5 years. And one of my sales guys came to me and says, boss, there's somebody that's bidding against us, right? And I remember telling him, says, why are you worried? We've been here for 5 years. This client has been with us for 5 years. I'm sure they know who is better. I'm sure they don't want to go to somebody else because we've been serving them for 5 years. We've been doing our job. And obviously, you know the end to the story. We lost that job. And then we began to lose other jobs, right? Because we positioned ourselves to be that pricing, and other people were more hungry to win over deals, so they undercut us. And they basically copied the master, or if you want to call it that, the person who taught them how to do it. They copied the master, so they copied everything that we do, but at a lower price. And we know how how this works, right? So apple to apple, people always choose the lower price. So we went to a state where we started losing business. From a company that was going 30 to 50% growth year on year, we were starting to decline the exact opposite. 30 to 50% decline the next 2 to 3 years. And I was so arrogant that even during that decline, I told myself, okay, all I got to do is just hire more people, right? And then I put ourselves more out there, right? So costs of operations kept on going up, revenue started declining, until a point where started owing the banks money because we took loans, we overdraft, and we just was paying too much, right? And suppliers, we started to hold supply payments. They were starting to
So literally,
chase
you
for
went from
payments.
making 10 million to dropping the negative.
Negative, right? And it was just that sense, just that arrogance, right? And there was this one point, right, where we were already struggling in terms of cash flow. Yes, deals were coming in, but cash flow was just it was just scraping, scraping. And there was 1 month where I said that, okay, we can pay salaries, but we have to hold EPF payments, right? I said, okay, we will hold the EPF payments and the income tax payments for our staff for a month, right? We will pay it next month, right? As long as we get salaries out, right? We thought, okay, we're not making people hungry. Next month came, we didn't have enough. We held EPF payments for 3 months. Suddenly, one of my staff wanted to buy a house. He went to EPF, printed out the statement, and then saw that, wait a minute, why is my EPF payments missing for the last 3 months? So then he confronted us, and then I apologized profusely. I said, we are so sorry. We are going through this phase. The only reason we did that is because we had to make sure that we kept cash. And I pay your salary anyway, right? I didn't cut your salary. I didn't stop paying you salary. It's just this, right? And we're going to pay next month anyway. Unfortunately, the trust was already broken, right? And unfortunately, also, he had actually informed a couple of the other members or the teammates as well already, right? Within the next 6 months, even though I learned my lesson, I did a town hall, I apologized, I said, sorry everybody, this is just business, we had to do it, we had no choice, I promise you that we'll make payments and all that. 70% of my team left. All my good guys left, right? Because I guess trust was broken.
And this is coming back to what you said, in business you need to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
Because you weren't honest with them.
Yeah. So that was the hardest lesson. The hardest lesson was that, we don't always have to paint the rainbows and stars to our teams. I think what's very important for everybody, even in a relationship, even with our teams, is just honesty. It's brutal honesty. Just knowing that if you're honest with them, if they have empathy, they will understand. But at least they know what's going on.
But a lot of business owners go, no, but they won't understand. They're not empathy. What do you say to that?
If they don't have empathy, then they will leave, and we should be okay with that, right? But what's worse is that we lie, we are not honest. Not even saying lying, right? Just not telling and not being transparent enough. And just that trust level, right? With our teams, I think trust is very important. If we want them to, take bullets for us, right? Work till midnight for us. We've got to deliver the trust back also. Yeah, there's no two ways about it.
So let's talk a bit about this, okay? How important is trust for an entrepreneur to build a business right now? Because do I trust my team and I show all my finances like open books, or do I trust them but I trust them a bit? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, their biggest problem is there is somebody who's listening to this, watching this, and they trusted somebody and it backfired really, really bad. That person became a competitor. That person took their stuff and shared it with somebody else. So as an entrepreneur, I think the biggest thing is like, who do I trust? Like, how do you know how much to how much to review, and do you have like a formula to like, okay, like when it comes to trusting people, like I only give so much unless they give.
Yeah. I don't know whether this is a formula. I don't have a specific formula. Um, but I feel that transparency is very important. That's me, right? In many of the different companies that I've founded, I open everything, right? Everybody knows my revenue. Everybody knows the profitability and everything. And with the profitability, everybody gets the rewards. So I guess the trust building exercise here is that if I declare everything, I also am honest to say that what are you getting out from this? And if we do hit it and they know what they're getting, then it's equilibrium, right? So then everybody has that sense of trust. I deliver what I promise. Will it backfire? There's a chance that it will backfire. There's a chance that people will copy the model and do it. But you know what? You know, if we are Senior Berhad, people can buy SSM reports anyway. Right? People can buy SSM reports. People know financials anyway. Right? So it's not something that I feel that can be hidden if they really wanted to. Right? And if people are that smart, right, to want to copy the business and become an entrepreneur by themselves, I feel that so be it lah. Right? So be it. I've had people copy the business and started themselves, and they failed. Right? Because they lack that entrepreneurship sense. Right? They all feel that I possess the technical capabilities, I can get this done. Right? I have people also that have been trusted people. They've been working for me for 10 years, and they come and tell me, Ray, I want to start my own business. Right? And I switch the conversations around and says, that's great. Right? What do you need, right? What do you need to start your business? And I actually ended up investing in the guy's business, right? And even though he's not really a competitor, he's still in tech, but he did something else. But I was kind of double dipping, lah, right? So I still did it. There were times where we competed with each other, right? But then there was a friendliness to it because I was also invested in his business, right? So it wasn't too bad. Right? So for me, the formula is always full transparency.
But in order to have this, it sounds like you have a different mindset or outlook about life and business. Like you believe that, I think one of the things that you recently brought into Malaysia was Bloom Growth, right? And then one of their principles is like everybody with. Why do you think you have this mindset? Where do you stand from?
Wow. I guess maybe if you look at it from a growing up perspective, from a childhood perspective, I grew up in a broken family. Well, I won't say broken in that word lah. My parents got divorced when I was 12 years old, and I developed this whole thing where, I always want to get attention and I always want to win, right? And I always want to win all the time, and I wanted to make sure that everybody loves me. Like the show Everybody Loves Raymond, right? Yeah. I wanted to win all the time. I realized that the more I wanted to win, I needed to do and go above and beyond things that even I could deliver myself. And with that, actually, so I'll give you an example. So, during growing up, because I wanted to win all the time, I lied about a couple of different things, right? Of who I was or what I could. Because I had friends which were wearing the latest Nike shoes, going out to places which I couldn't afford to go, right? But I would just pretend, right? But with that, then when some of those were discovered, I lost friends, I lost good friends, right? And I think throughout that, I discovered that, shit, man, this whole win-lose thing, it's not sustainable. So then, probably in my 20s, right, I started to develop, okay, is there a way that we can live in a world which is win-win, right? Is there a way that, I don't have to be the best at what I do, or I don't have to monopolize the market? But if I can do it with a bunch of people, we can all do it together and we can all win, right? So like when we talk about Bloom, right? When we spoke, some time back, I loved it because, it's about us all being business coaches and trainers together, right? And why do I have to be the number one business coach? There is 1 million registered business SMEs or businesses in Malaysia, right? How many can I do? How many can we do, right? Even if we take like maybe even 1,000, we train 1,000 entrepreneurs, right? Every single month. We still can't reach 1 million. But if we can come together and do it together, right? I guess it's more fun, right? When we can sit down here and chat about stuff, and just bounce off notes, and then we all can be better versus the ones that wants to do it alone.
So basically, the rising tide lifts all boats, that concept.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, well said, yeah.
Okay. And then, so let's talk a bit about your background. Like, you started off in music. Why did you choose
Are we going there?
Yes, let's go there. You started off with music. How the hell you end up in IT? And then you talk a bit about, like you in London, right? You were doing music, some music business, and then you spent lavishly. So can you talk a bit about that?
So I was in London. I was there on a student visa for 5 years.
Like, were you there for a music degree or something?
I was there for a music
Okay.
degree.
What can you play? Just curious. Like, well, what do they even teach you in music degree?
Very, very, very interesting story. So I generally sing,
Yes.
right? I can play the keyboards. I play a little bit of bass guitar, a little bit of drums. Okay. So when I was growing up, because of that whole phase of discovering myself, right? I wasn't actually the most studious person. I scraped through SPM, right? And while some of my friends were becoming engineers and doctors, studying accounting degrees, economics degrees and all that, I said, what the hell can this guy study, lah? Right? So, but I always loved music. I grew up in the era of tapes, okay? So cassette tapes. So we did kind of back then. The so-called DJing was basically creating mixtapes, right? So that was something that I loved to do. So I thought, okay, let's do something related to music. It was either music or arts. I used to draw a little bit also. But how did I choose between the two was I looked at it and says, okay, if I become an artist, I can only be famous when I die. So I said, okay, I want to be famous before I die.
So maybe like at least you can sing concert, you can make money.
Yeah, like that, right? So then I realized that actually I wasn't really a good musician. I didn't learn music, I played by ear. So I went into audio engineering. So I studied in a school of audio engineering. And then from there, I decided to go to London to pursue a degree. I didn't know what I didn't know. I chose a Bachelor of Science in Music Technology, thinking that it was an extended and a more deeper version of what I was studying, right? And audio engineering is about, live recording, or even recording in a studio, right? The mixing
Kind of like
of the songs.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, right? With the guy behind the sound and all that, right? Correct, right? And it was a degree that was teaching about physics, acoustics of sound, how the sound bounce off walls, the science
Oh my
part.
god.
How do you tune pianos? How do you build amplifiers? And all that, right? We said, oh my god, this is not something that I can take. And I struggled in the first year. I struggled so much in the first year. And so then it was the decision, right? Do I continue this for the next 4 years? And long story short, I didn't. And I went into basically just working. I worked in several jobs. I worked in a recording studio. I worked in those shops where you develop photos, right? Do not photos.
This old enough and ancient enough to remember.
Right. I just revealed my age. um, I worked in a Chinese restaurant, right? I did some form of trading, right? Trading. I used to sell certain substances, right? Being very raw with you, brother. Sold substances. Because I was in the industry. I was in the music industry, right? Just to get me through those times, right? So, but I was still very passionate about music. When my visa expired and I came back to Malaysia, what could I apply for job? What could I apply for? Obviously in the music industry. So I saw there was this recording studio called Synchro Sound. And at that time, it was the largest recording studio in Southeast Asia. Right? So I thought, okay, I have enough experience. I used to work for a guy called Leonard Tan. Right? I used to do some live music engineering and all that. I have enough of to apply for a job. So I applied for a job at Synchro Sound. They looked at my resume and they loved it. I had all the experiences. And I was happy. And I said, okay. So then I asked, okay, can I ask what's the pay? Right? What's the package? Said, we can pay you 600. So I thought, okay, wait a minute. Oh, okay, hold on. When I was in London, we were paid weekly. So I said, okay, is it 600 a month? 600 a week? I said, no. 600 ringgit a month. So I thought like, wait a minute. With all these qualifications and all that, I'm only getting 600 ringgit a month? I can't even barely survive, right, with 600 ringgit a month. And that kind of opened my eyes into the industry. So the guy was an Angmo guy at the time. He said that, everybody starts from the bottom, right? So no matter how good you are. I didn't buy it, right? And at the end of the day, it was just the 600 ringgit. I knew I couldn't survive. So then I had to look at so it was a survival decision. If the largest recording studio was only going to pay me 600 ringgit, what about the rest?
Right? And that's why you pivoted to IT.
Yeah, was I going to bus on the streets, play keyboards or whatever on the streets and earn money that way? I think I wanted something more, right? I didn't want to suffer. So that's where tech came in. I looked at it. I had a friend who was in technology. He started talking to me about it. I says, okay, let's pivot to something completely different. And that's when I went into tech.
How would you say, and then right now, like, you should dabble in a lot of music. Can you talk a bit about that? Like, why do you should dabble in music? And then you have your, not boy band, you have your own band. Tell us a bit about that. And I would say more of like, why do you should do this? Like, you're a very busy person.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, music is still a passion. But I think this goes back to my learning through life that, not every passion that you have can turn into a business. Right? And we can talk a bit more about that. So it was still a passion. It was still something I loved to do. And through the years, it was something that I realized that, makes me smile, makes me happy. It was my getaway, right? It was my punching bag at the gym. Then a group of friends, they were all entrepreneurs. They all had the same passion for music, but they all knew that, music can't make money, right? So they all went into business and all that. Some were family business and all that. But, my lead guitarist has like 12 guitars, 15 guitars in his room and all that. The bassist that plays in the band, right, has a whole studio in his room. So they all played for the passion of it. So we also said, why don't we just come together and form a band, right? So then we started that by forming a band. Then we played for free, right? We were nobody, so we can't really say, okay, pay me $5,000, right? So we played for free for some friends, for some conferences. And it started from there, and I think we were kind of quite good, right? Because people started asking us to do more, so we just did that. But it became something which was fun. We would maybe do it once a year, twice a year. And then suddenly, I think it was 4 years ago, one of our friends' daughter, right, who he felt was very talented, but he felt that she was very quiet. She was a very awkward kid, right? She was, I think, 9 or 10 years old at that time. Um, and and he approached us and says, "Hey, can you help or can you train my daughter to sing on stage?" And we said, "Yeah, why not, right?" So let's hear her sing. So after a bit of coaxing, she sang, and oh my God, she sang Whitney Houston songs and all that.
And 9 years old.
At 9 years old, right? We said, oh my God, crazy, right? So we started to train her, put her up on stage. When we played, so we used to play in pubs like the Barn and all that, right? And then she started singing, and then like, wow, right? And then after that, the father, which was a friend, started to tell us, hey, you know what? She's a different person now. She gained so much confidence from it. She's now making friends. She has she's a very different person. Thank you so much. So the band now has 2 years ago, my band leader TC, he started this thing called Gig for Good. So every year we will perform 3 times, and 16 weeks prior to that, we'll open up this program called Gig for Good, and we would basically train kids which are into music to perform on stage in a 16-week program. Some come up to rap. Some we form bands together.
So
Kid bands, right? And some of them weren't really like very young kids, right? They were in college, international schools, and all that. So then the graduation will be that we'll feature them in that live performance. So we typically have about 4 to 5 bands every time, and then obviously the host band, the uncle band, the old man band will get to perform as well. And yeah, so it's turned to that. Yeah, so helping kids gain confidence through music.
So let's talk a bit about the passion. What a lot of people, if you listen to other podcast entrepreneurs, they go like, find your passion, just do what you love, and then the money will come. You did the total opposite. Like, you did something else, and then you decided to do passion in your part-time. What's your thoughts on this?
I truly believe that do what you love and be passionate about it. Money will automatically come and you'll be rich is bullshit, right? And the reason why I realized is this, right? I was very passionate about music, right? But if I continued to pursue my passion, I don't think I would have made it. And basically, probably because I'm in a country which the music scene isn't exactly that great. All our famous musicians, right, famous artists, right, they all had to go outside of Malaysia, become famous, and then come back. Then they continued their popularity, right? And like the Namwi and all that, right? So, and I realized one very, very important fact. When you love something, for example, right, when you love photography, right, when you love to take pictures, and suddenly when you turn it into a business, and then you take photography for people, and I know photography friends, right? Suddenly you gotta do it for others. Others may have their own opinions about how the photograph needs to look like, and then they tell you, hey, no, take it this way, take it that way, take it this way, right? And suddenly it becomes something which is no longer your passion. Passion then turns to work, and when it turns to work, it's no longer passionate. It's no longer passion anymore, right? So I'm not saying that don't be passionate about doing your work. I'm saying that there needs to be a very clear understanding of it. That passion doesn't equals you being rich. Passion doesn't equal success, right? I think we've got to define success first. If success is about doing what you love, like us doing coaching, right? Us training business owners, the money isn't that important anymore, right? Yes, of course, money is important, but it's not the number one. Then it works better, right? So yeah, don't assume that passion equals success.
So let me ask you this next question. If we look at how your music background has your music background played a part in you becoming an MC, a speaker, a trainer today? Because right now, okay, you also do a lot of MC on the side. You also speak. You also train. You also coach. You also consult. How has your music background helped you? Was it a springboard or was it a brand new total skill that you learn on your own?
Um, I think if you are in music and you're performing, that helps. At the beginning part of my music career, I wasn't performing, right? I was behind the console. I was behind the scenes, right? I think what helped me was, that whole everybody loves Raymond thing where I wanted people to love me, right? I remember when I was a kid, I was watching TV and I was watching this comedian on stage, and he was doing this skit where it was a performance, and when he did that, everybody laughed. So I looked at it and says, "Wow, okay, so that's how you make people like you. That's how you make people laugh, right?" So in high school, then I started to be. My first MC gig was in high school. It was I think it was a Rotary Club thing, right? And I MC'd since that. I did a skit and everybody laughed and I enjoyed it and so on. Um, when I went into music and then when I eventually performed, I think the answer to you is yes. That whole being in front of the crowd, understanding how to engage, because you could just sing by yourself and then everybody may not listen, right? It's about saying, hey, how are you tonight, right? Or what song do you want to sing? All right? Can you sing together, right? The whole engagement then really brought the energy in others, right? It lifted up the energy in the room. So I would say in that sense, yes, right? It did help me in what I'm doing now, right? In emceeing, in even being, I would say, a better business owner, right?
Tell us more about that. How important is presenting, speaking? How important is it for a business?
I personally feel it's very, very important, right? Because at the end of the day, I feel that as a business owner, everybody looks up to you for direction. Everybody looks everybody wants to follow a good leader, right? Every good person wants to work for a good leader and wants to work for a good company. So if you are a leader that cannot communicate, cannot communicate your direction, how do you then inspire others to to go on this journey? And not only on our journey, but on their own journey, right? I think I see a lot of CEOs, they hide behind the PowerPoints, right? They hide behind the offices, right? And I'm not saying that being an inspirational leader, you have to talk like, you have good command in English, you pronounce words properly and all that. But perhaps even just understanding how to tell good stories, how to be authentic, in the speech or the things that you want to do. So I feel it's very, very important because with that, words can command movements, right? So if we are able to be a CEO that can inspire, can drive others, I think it will always make us a better business owner.
Mm. So now the question is this. Now that I learn how to speak, I learn how to present, right? Then I will need the tools. So this is where I want to talk a bit about what you're doing now, right? You have multiple things going on. You have an owner circle, you got Bloom Growth, then you still got your own businesses, the businesses you invest in. Kind of give us a snapshot. What is Raymond doing now? Okay, so and then let's talk a bit more about the training side that you're doing. But just give us a snapshot. What are you juggling with? Because it always feels like you're very, very busy.
I have this fear that I'm not maximizing time, right? I have this fear that I had four people in my life, right? Two relatives and two friends. And obviously they were at a certain age, right? They were in their 60s at that time. And all of them, when they decided that they would retire, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to retire from my job. I've done enough. I've worked my ass off for the last 40 years. I'm just going to chill. I'm going to retire, right? The word retire. And unfortunately, within the next 2 years, they all passed. They all died. And I have this fear that, if we stop doing things, we will just fade, right? God may decide that, okay lah, enough lah, right? You don't have to do any more things, right? It's time to go. So I have this fear that I'm not maximizing time, and I don't want to go into that state. And I have this obsession that every single minute counts, because time is something that you cannot rewind. And if I'm not doing something at a particular time, means I'm wasting it, right? I'm not saying that everybody should follow this, right? But that's me. So yes, I'm busy, but I try my best to make myself busy. I want to make sure that I'm either doing something to help others, or I'm doing something to help myself. So, snapshot of my life. I coach. Now I coach several businesses. I coach about 10 to 12 businesses, right, on a dedicated manner. Some of these companies are in the Philippines, and Indonesia, and Singapore, and here. So I travel. The good thing about traveling is you get to see other cultures, and I love traveling. I also do a bit of training, right? So I have training programs that I run 1 to 2 times a year. And in the companies that I invested in, I act as an advisor, as a board of director, and I meet the owners, and I meet them sometimes once a month, sometimes once in 3 months, and I go visit the offices, and I just play the role of an advisor, right? Other times, I'm reading, I'm doing a bit of research, right? I'm on ChatGPT a lot, I'm on Claude a lot, just to do research as to what's happening in the world, and how do we help others more. Yeah, so that's kind of a snapshot.
And do you work in the businesses you invested in? Like, are you in an active role in any of them, or?
No, so I'm not in an operational role.
It's all more of a board of advisor role.
More board directors advisory.
So one thing that came out just now when you talk about that, traveling. How important traveling is for a founder or business owner to see different cultures?
I think very, very important.
So give me an example of an insight that during your travels you saw something and then you were able to apply it in your business and you saw some growth.
So very simply, right? So one of our businesses called Ping Rap is a product design and a social media management company. All of the resources are in Indonesia, right? But our clients are all in Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Australia, and so on, right? In my travels to Indonesia, right, I get to talk to a lot of the Indonesians and all that, and I get to see the cultures and the way that they do things, and I realize that the Indonesian culture is a very creative culture, right? And I look at some of the designs and the way they do things. It's so much more creative and open-minded than the creative industry here in Malaysia. We have here, but probably not as much. That's what I saw. And obviously, from a resource pay perspective, Indonesia was a lot cheaper. So then I said that, okay, if we could do this originally it was supposed to be this, let's start a Air Asia in the creative industry, right? Offer cheap creative stuff, right? And just disrupt the market. But then it pivoted along the way to basically just doing something different. But by me visiting another country, I could see that it would complement the businesses here, right? So that is one. Others is like, certain products, right? I remember looking at a product in in the Philippines, right? And it was a very simple product which I've never seen before, which is coconut pie.
Ah,
Have you ever tasted a coconut pie here? It's a pie, right?
yeah,
It's like a
but in
pie, but it's inside is all
coconut.
coconut slices,
Okay.
right? And I ate it. I was like, oh my god, this is damn nice. So I thought, why isn't anybody selling this in other parts of the world, right? So I took that idea, and I went to a friend in Singapore, who's in the food industry, and I says, hey, right, try this. I says, oh my god, this is so good, right? So then I invested in his business, and we brought that coconut pie, right, and we started selling it in Singapore, right? This was just under a year, but it's starting to pick up. People are starting to love the product.
So it's about understanding what trends or what is common in another country that most people take for granted, and then you can bring it in, just like kind of how the whole bubble tea trend started here in Malaysia. Wow. And so how important is perspective for an entrepreneur to open their eyes, to open their world?
I think we have to, as an entrepreneur, we always have to be in a mode of continuous learning. I feel that if we are the kind of horse that is just
Yes.
very single-sidedness, right?
Focus vision, tunnel
Yeah,
vision.
very focused vision, right? Yes, it's good to deliver work, but as a business owner, we must always play this role of the visionary, right? We can't be the ones that's good at repairing the air condition, right? We must be the ones that to see the world as to what different types of air condition are there in the world, what type of different technologies, what different pipings is there available. Can I bring it such that it would create a differentiation for the business? So the perspective and just broadening out our minds is highly, highly crucial for any entrepreneur, right? We've got to invest in that, right? I know you, David, you invest a lot in attending other seminars and learning and things like that. I think it's a great thing, right? We've got to invest. We've got to broaden our minds, or else we'll only be doing what we do best. And now with the world of AI and all that, right? Disruption happens in just fingertips, right? And if we are not ahead of the technology, we're at the bottom of the
Which reminds me of one thing that's very unique, because you were able to exit your business because you had a global business at the valuation that you wanted, right? So what made you go global? Because like a lot of businesses, I just do Malaysia. Like you notice they never think, they always want to say, how can I be bigger in Malaysia? But it never occurred to them, like, how can I expand cross country to Thailand, to all of that? So just revisiting back to the business that you sold or exit, even the business that you're doing now, you have clients in Philippines, Singapore, or Indonesia. What makes you have the confidence or the first step to go global? And then how do you do that? Because like a lot of people go like, I don't have connection. I don't know where to go. I can't speak Thai. How do I go there? So let's break that down.
Wow, a lot of stories here, man. I think two angles here. Okay, I guess I always felt that if we could do it, or if somebody wants to buy a product here, then there should be always an opportunity for anybody in the world, in a different country, to also buy that product. Because it's always people will buy based on a need. So if I can create a need anywhere in the world, then people will buy. But obviously it will be tougher. Yes, no connections,
No
no
language.
inroads, language is a problem. And I failed because of that, right? So when I bounced back in that tech company, I started to expand. When I started to expand in Thailand, Indonesia, in my first try, I failed. Because I thought that, okay, I'll just do whatever I do, and I'll just set up a company in Thailand, and I'll just do exactly that. I'll set up a company in Indonesia, I'll do exactly that. And I failed. Because I didn't realize that, oh my God, that the way people buy is different, culture is different, language is different, and I thought that language wouldn't be a problem. Because when I went to see clients, I spoke in English. The Thai clients, potential clients, all spoke in English. Yeah, language shouldn't be a problem, right? Then I realized, right, that every time we ended that meeting, the potential Thai client will always ask me one question. And the question is, do you have Thai people? I'm going like, why is this question so weird? So why does it matter whether I have Thai people or not? Isn't the important thing the technology?
Mm.
Isn't the important thing delivering you the results? But I realized the culture is very different. You know, Thai being the culture of Thailand is very, very insular, very inclusive, very protective, right? Same with Indonesia. So the lesson learned there in terms of expanding outside is that we've got to understand the culture. It's very different than America or the US, right? Where everybody speaks the same language. Everybody culturally is the same. But here in Asia, different language, different culture. So the second try, when we retracted and we went back again, we went through partners. Again, reminding myself of the win-win mentality.
So previously you went in, it's just like, I want everything for
I
myself.
want to do everything myself,
Okay.
right? Because I knew how to do it, right? I thought it would be faster, right? And partnerships are complicated, right? And I wasn't sure whether or not I could navigate that. But I realized that was the only way. Figure out a win-win situation with the partners. They own majority of the business. We support them with the know-how, the knowledge, the technology, and make everybody win, right? So going back to the win-win mentality is very important. The second answer to your question, David, is this. If the market, right, in a country, I realize, in the market in the country in Malaysia is enough for you to grow and scale the business, then maybe we don't need to go out of the country. In that technology business, I was serving clients which are the top level MNCs, banks, large telcos, and all that. So it was a very niche gap. And it was a very niche positioning. So I knew that there was only so many customers that I could have. And for me to exponentially grow the business, I have no choice but to target the same clients, but outside, in another country. Because I would have saturated my market, and that was my stagnated growth there. So I think evaluating the market size is very important. How much of a market do we have? Look at Indonesia, right? Indonesia has a 290 million population. And you realize that many Indonesian businesses don't need to go out because their market is just so huge, right? But for us, I think we have to look at our industry and our business. And I think for most of us, we are a 30 million population. We are a small country. So if we want to exponentially grow, we have to explore. Does this need then exist in other countries, right? And that kind of can help us with that decision.
So breaking what you just said down is always like looking at the needs, understanding the culture, but most importantly, when you enter a country, not trying to take everything yourself, but to find the right partners. So how do you find the right partner? Very important question. What do you look for?
Very hard.
Other than praying very hard.
I think in all partnerships, I feel that there must be.
What makes a good partnership?
Mm.
For the ones you've done so far.
Yeah. What makes a good partnership is aligned vision, right? So where do we want to go? What makes a good partnership is aligned values, right? How do we operate? What are some of those deal breakers, right? And third, how do we complement each other? I find that I've been in partnerships where it failed. It's because from a role perspective,
You're both
we
doing
were
the same
good.
thing.
Yeah, we both had the same strengths, and we were both doing the same thing, right? And we will always be arguing of, I think my way is better, right? And the other person will argue that, yeah, I think my way is better, right? So there's always this challenge. So I think having different roles plays a very important part. And I learned through all these failed partnerships that I think something very important that I learned. So I'll share with you, right? So Owner Circle is not something I started, right? It was something that Jonathan started, right? So John started Owner Circle, and then he roped me in, right? And he convinced me, come in as a partner. And he's a good friend. And I didn't want, friends to become, if something sour happens to the business, it will sour the friendship, right? So I thought very hard. I said, how do we do this? And I told John this. I said, John, okay, right? I'll come in, but for the next 1 year, I don't want to take any shares. You don't transfer any shares to me, right? And for this 1 year, we evaluate. We evaluate each other. We operate, but I will operate exactly like your business partner. I will dive deep into the business with you, but I will take no shares. I remember John asking me back, huh? You do that? I said, why you want to do that? And I told him that, look, would you marry a girl if you met her for the first time? You won't, right? So, isn't partnerships as important as a marriage? It is, right? So why is it that a lot of us just get married straight away and miss the dating period? So I think we have to date first before we get married. So we got to date first. We got to understand each other first. We did an exercise of do we share the same values? What is our vision? What is our deal breakers and all that? So we did this exercise, and we just operated for 1 year. We signed an agreement that says that if we have not pulled each other's hair out in 1 year, then the transfer of shares will happen.
Yeah, that's a very amazing way.
So it would highlight my commitment to him, and it will also give us both a chance to date and trial out this whole partnership.
But you
Yeah. If it doesn't work out,
you do still take salary. Right? Yeah,
yes,
okay, so it's still fair.
I operate exactly like a business owner, right? It's just that without any shares. And at the end of the day, right, if it doesn't work out, I can walk away, he can walk away, and we can still be friends. So maybe not so easy for everybody to do this, but I think if we can all do this, it will create a lot more healthier.
So basically have a evaluation period, and then during the period, the things you want to look out for is values. You complement each other's strength, and then most importantly, are you having the same aligned vision?
Yeah. Or maybe even just work on a project first. Right?
So basically have gradient in the relationship. Most people try to jump right in, but you want to have gradient in the relationship.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's important. Because marriage, I think in a marriage, if things go a little bit sour, you have something called love, right? To take you through. In a partnership, there is no that kind of love, right? So when things go sour, it's very complicated, right? And then, just like a divorce, a partnership is even worse. It's even messier, right? So yeah, date first, guys. Date first.
How important is choosing the right relationship partner for an entrepreneur? Yes, we're gonna talk a bit about it.
Is this you finding your ex partner?
This is me trying to not make the mistake I made 5 times before this podcast. Hopefully the next one is the final one.
Oh man. Okay. I feel that in relationships, I think 2 things is very important. One thing is chemistry, another is compatibility. Right? I think a lot of us go into a relationship, or rather choose to get married because the chemistry was good.
So chemistry would be like...
Chemistry is like the vibe.
The vibe. I like...
I say, oh, you like that too? Oh wow, I like that too. There's this chemistry. When you talk, you light up. It's all the fun hee hee ha ha times, right? Chemistry, right? So chemistry is important, but chemistry is only important at the start. I think along the way we have to figure out whether or not we have compatibility. Similarly, like a partnership earlier, right? Do we have aligned goals or not? Right? What is it that you want to be doing in your life? Right? Do we have things that we like to do together or not? Right? And I've had very stressful relationships because there was no compatibility at the end. Right? We didn't like to do the things we do, and it was always a lot of compromise. Right? Okay, since you like to do it, since I love you, I will do it too. But deep down, oh my God, why are we doing this? Right? So yes, there can be some compromise, but I think the compatibility is very important. So without the compatibility, most of the time I see friends who have ended up in divorce or things like that. the compatibility at the end of the day did not match.
Mm. So will you say opposites attract or find somebody similar to you?
Me, find somebody similar to you.
Why? Why do you think it's so important? Because like I interviewed a bunch of people on this podcast already, and then they all say find somebody who can understand you and it's very different from working people dating. Working people, if they're in a job, right, they say, oh, find somebody opposite to you. But I realize talking to entrepreneurs, they go like, find somebody who understands you, find somebody who gives you peace, find somebody who can literally think like you. Why? Why is this so important?
I think this is life, right? In a business, it's different. In a business, we have to leverage to get exponential growth. We have to leverage the skills of what I don't have with you. So much so it's like building a puzzle, right? We have to find different pieces. In a relationship, it's life. We go through things together, right? We're not trying to leverage each other.
It's not like business, like,
it's not like okay. What can you do? What can you do? What can we like?
Because there's a lot.
Get more.
There's a lot of what people think. It's like, oh, I can cook, you can clean. Let's get together.
But a relationship is about enjoying moments together, right? That's what relationship is about. If I'm gonna do my own thing, you're gonna be doing your own thing, then why are we in a relationship for? It's about being able to cook together, right? It's being able to travel together. It's being able to like the same things, and being able to, laugh crazily together, right? It's not the opposite. Opposites attract, I feel, is when you feel that you need someone to complete you, where in the skills and the parts you don't have. I think that's where people may feel that I need to find an opposite to complete me. I feel that great relationships are already
To
the
complete
person, we are
people.
already complete.
Coming together.
And we are coming together to basically just enjoy moments in life as two complete people.
Oh, yeah, I remember I heard that somewhere. It's like most people's definition of relationship is I'm a half, you're a half, we come together to become a whole.
Yeah, like the heart,
Yeah.
those.
And then actually that's a terrible way to think about it. It should be I'm a heart and whole, you're a heart and whole, and we come together to just enjoy the journey together. So when we talk a bit about relationships, right? How has your relationship with your parents, right? Because like on one of the other podcasts you said, was it your mom or dad? They say like, let's give Raymond away. How has that relationship shaped you to who you are now? And how's your relationship with your parents when they were zero?
Yeah, so I think that particular moment was when I was 6 years old, right? When I overheard my mom telling my uncle, oh, my dad says in his rage, just give the boy away, right? And that was something that my dad said when I was I think 1 year, was still a baby or something like that, right? I was a crybaby, right? So, and the reason why I was a crybaby because they didn't know until later in my age that I was allergic to milk.
Oh,
So I was crying because I was allergic to milk. I was lactose intolerant as a baby. So I was crying all the time. And my dad at that time he had a temper. So unfortunately I heard that when I was 6 years old. And I guess, yes, all parents in anger will tell something like, I'm gonna sell you to the police. I'm gonna give you away to the police. Things like that, right? Maybe jokingly or maybe not that, right? But I took it very hard. I said, how can somebody, was I that bad as a child that I want to be given away? So that developed that everybody loves Raymond my mentality, right? That I knew everybody in the world to love me, right? And it wasn't great, right? I started smoking when I was 12 because somebody offered me a cigarette. I couldn't say no. I started drinking. I started clubbing when I was 14. I joined a gang, right? Because everybody just asked me to be part of it. And I said, yeah, sure. I was a yes man to every single person, right? So that kind of shaped me to be this person that would be a very popular figure, right? Because I said yes to everybody. But honestly, I was suffering because naturally I'm an introvert, right? I don't like crowds. I don't like big crowds, um, and and I just wanted to just make everybody see the good side of me always, right? When my parents got divorced at 12, I had this mixed feeling. One part of me felt relief that I didn't have to see my dad again. One part of me felt uncertain. What was life going to be? So with this whole everybody loves Raymond thing that's going on, and this whole uncertainty, I don't think anybody in my friends as I was growing up knew that my parents was divorced. I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't say it to anybody because I would think that would be a weakness. I thought that people would see me put me as a lower ranked person back then. So I began living with my mom. My dad moved out, right? But something strange happened. Throughout the next few years, and I met my, I really sat down with my dad when I was in London. He was a pilot, so he travels to London often. And I sat down for coffee in my first year in London, and he changed from this angry, temperamental guy that I used to know him. He suddenly became this super nice guy, right? He told me a joke about fluctuation, right? And I was going like, why the difference, right? He had already met somebody, but I didn't know at the time. So then I throughout many years, I had this thing where, I don't want to talk to my dad. I don't want to build a relationship with him, right? Because that was what I went through. We just leave things as it is. So I never built a relationship with him. But that time when I was, I think, almost 20, I saw a different side. So I asked myself that, why did he change? Why do people change? Then I think not only later in life that I realized that, when I was in tough relationships, I realized that maybe he was not happy in that relationship with my mom. My mom is a superbly nice person, right? Anybody will always say that, wow, your mom is so nice. When I was younger, I never could understand why would somebody want to leave this human being, which is so nice, which takes care of the house, which does everything. I don't understand. Then I realized that, going back to the love and partnership, compatibility and all that, right? Maybe they just was not compatible. And chemistry was gone already. Compatibility now is not there. And they just had no love. And I realized that my blame was just not in the right place. And who I became, because of that blame, had to go away. Yeah. So I still don't have a very tight relationship with my dad. I see him twice a year. One on his birthday, I bring him out for dinner, and Chinese New Year. He has remarried. My mom lives with me, so I have a great relationship with her. But it's improved, and I'm happy about that. And I'm happy that I realized the feelings that I had inside and the person I was going to become, and I also developed some anger in relationships along the way, and I realized that I needed to dig deep into why that happened. And I guess I'm happy that I have some sort of a relationship. I'm not in anger mode with my dad. So yeah, that's special.
Who do you think is your biggest role model? Whether it's right now or growing up, who was your role model?
I think the biggest person that made a significance in my life was my father-in-law. Yeah, my father-in-law was kind of the father I did not have, right? In a sense of always being there, always having that leadership, teaching me. He was a very family-oriented person, so he'll always put family first. he would work and he would give everything to the family. He would always, spend the least himself. And we would always I would always say, hey, come, let me buy you a drink or whatever, right? He would sometimes call me out for a drink, on a one-on-one, which initially I felt awkward. I said, oh, why would I want to have drink with my father-in-law? I don't even have drinks with my own father, right? So, but then in those chats, I realized that, wow, this person, is somebody that I'm looking up to. Somebody that could be a father to a family, right? And I learned a lot of these tips from him. So yeah, he played a very significant part.
Wow. So last question I want to ask is, if right now there's a founder, there's a business owner, there's somebody listening or watching this, and then they're in their car, they're driving to work. What's one piece of advice you would give them?
Don't go through this alone. Right? I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, me included, at the start of my first few businesses, I thought that this business is mine. Therefore, I need to just do it myself because nobody will understand. Nobody will know the challenges that I go through, and I just had to chong lah. I just had to do it myself, right? But I think the biggest lessons I've learned is that we all have to drop our ego. We all have to ask for help. We all have to learn from someone. And I think the more ego that we have and saying that we can learn it ourselves, again, time will pass. Time will not recover back by itself. And then we lose and we waste that time to potentially learn something that would exponentially grow our business. Sometimes, most entrepreneurs, we all didn't go through MBAs or learn about businesses, right? We all had a good idea, we started a business, and then we just bang walls. But I wish that I asked for help earlier. I wish that I would have gone to a seminar or learned something from somebody, even a group of friends.
Yeah, which you're inside a community called EO, right? So having that group of entrepreneur organization friends, what that, or whether going to a seminar, these kind of community.
Yeah, so a community in EO, YPO, or whatever.
So, but a lot of people have this mindset. If they are successful and rich, why do they want to share?
Yes, I guess there's nothing wrong with that mentality, but I feel that sharing, the more you share, the more you learn. Me sharing about the way that we did our business in the technology side created a lot of competitors, right? And it ultimately resulted in me going down. But it was only because I didn't level up myself to even learn more to go to the next level, right? So when I shared, I created competition, but I created also a tribe. I created friends. These were my competitors that still looked up to me. But I didn't level up. I didn't go and learn more. I didn't broaden my perspective, right? So I think as any entrepreneurs out there, open up, go and learn. The more we learn, the more we will grow. I think that's fundamental.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Raymond, for joining us on the Business Buddha
Thank you,
podcast.
brother.
That was amazing.